All right. So the 4 design elements are lines, colors, shapes, and textures. That's what it all boils down to. Every single design that you encounter is going to be made of these 4 things, or you're going to be able to comment on these 4 things in those designs. All right. So when you start thinking about creating a design, these are the 4 things you kind of need to keep in the back of your mind. What are your lines going to look like? How are they going to convey emotion, maybe? How do curved lines versus straight lines affect your audience, right? They have different feelings with them. What kind of color scheme are you going to use? Are you going to go with warm colors to kind of create an exciting feel? Or are you going to go with cool colors to kind of make a laid back or kind of somber feel? What kind of shapes are you going to include? Are you going to include geometric shapes in your design? Or are you going to use organic shapes in your design? And then texture. Are you going to include hyper-realistic, photorealistic textures? Or are you going to take away that texture for effect, right? So there's all these different questions that can come together when you are just sitting down to start on a design. And you can look at this right here. We got the star. We got a circle, we got a box, right? We got a line. So you got a bunch of different things here that consist of these things. All right. So first thing we're going to look at is lines. Now, you may think this is something that is not important at all, but lines go a long way with creating a good design, okay? At this point, we're just worried about identification. I want you to be able to tell me about the lines you see at this point. So we're not interpreting anything yet. We'll get to that, but at this point, we just want to know, can we identify these things? So if you look at this design here, this is pretty simple. Lines can be straight or curved. That's what it boils down to. So if we look at, say, the mountain or the island we have here and this palm tree, right? We have curved lines used here, right? We have a curved line right here to create this the sun in the background. We have straight lines used here to create a rippling effect in the water. And then we have these triangular shapes, or we could say that they are lines and they're just expanded as they move outward from the sun to create a sense of depth, right? So all those lines come into play when you're thinking about this design here. And this is just a very simple design. Right, so color definitions. When you think about that next element, hue is just another word for color. When we start working with Photoshop and Illustrator, they're going to use hue a lot, especially in the menus and things. Chroma is going to be the intensity or purity of that color, right? So if we're doing straight red with nothing else mixed into it, that would be an example of a chroma color, right? Tint is going to be the color when you mix white with it. Tone is going to be when you mix gray with a color, and shade is going to be when you mix black with a color. All right, and then brightness, and this deals with digital displays. Brightness is the quantity of light that reaches your viewer's eyes, right? And depending on what design you're putting together, you're going to have to obviously mess with each one of these settings to create the proper effect. Also, you are going to be using a color wheel in this class. And what I would like for you guys to use is something called Adobe Color. All right. And this is a nice basic tool that allows you to set up color schemes for your designs. And the nice thing about it is you can log into your Adobe account with the color wheel. You can set up the color scheme, save it to your assets, log into your Photoshop, import that asset, and be able to use that color scheme immediately, right? So it ties things together for you in a really nice way. I do want to show you what this looks like right quick so you kind of see here, and we'll be using this tool as we work in the class. But this is what it looks like here. So you have your color wheel in the middle, you have your color definitions below, all right, with those RGB numbers. So you can transfer those over to Photoshop or Illustrator if you need to. You have your color schemes over here. And we're only going to be worried about analogous, monochromatic, triad, and complementary. And we'll talk about what those are in just a minute. And if you drag these pieces out, you can create your color scheme. So say I want an analogous color scheme, and that means colors that are beside one another. And I want to make sure that my whole design uses only blues and pinks and purples, right? So all these colors are beside one another. I could drag that. Up here is my color scheme, right? And once I sign into my Creative Cloud, I can save that and import it into Photoshop, all right? Another nice thing that you can use here is the extract theme feature. And what you can do is you can actually upload a picture and it will extract its color scheme from the file. So say I want to upload, I'll just choose one for my computer here. Let's see, desktop. Say I want to use this one right here, right? Reds and blues, Spider-Man. I can import that one. It's going to identify the most prominent colors and create a color scheme for me from that image. So it's a really nice tool. And say I wanted to create an advertisement using prominent colors from that image. Well, now I know I can use dark reds and blues and these types of colors, shades and tints, to create maybe a logo or some additional elements to put into the design to make it more interesting to the eye, right? So we'll look more, work more with that in a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the notes here. So the four color schemes that we're going to talk about are analogous, complementary, monochromatic, and triad. All right, analogous are going to be just what we just talked about. They're adjacent or beside one another on the color wheel. So that's going to be green, yellow, orange. Could be orange, red, and purple. Could be just yellow and green. Could be violet and blue. As long as they're beside one another, then it's going to be an analogous color scheme. Now, if you use every color on the wheel, technically that would be an analogous color scheme. But if you use every color, that means you're not using any color scheme. You're just throwing all the colors on there. All right. Complementary colors are going to be opposite of one another. So like green and purple, yellow and violet, red and blue-green, blue and orange, right? All those are complementary colors. Monochromatic colors are going to be tints and shades of the same color. So say you create an entire design with nothing but tints and shades of blue, right? Or green or whatever it may be. And those can make for some really intense, emotional designs, all right? And then triad is going to be basically if you draw a triangle on the color wheel, you would have three corresponding colors, and that would be a triad color scheme. So like green, blue, red, yellow, blue, red, purple, yellow, and blue, green, right? So whatever it may be, if you draw a triangle on it, link those three colors together, then that would be a triad color scheme. All right. Color and design, and this is where we kind of get into the design principles. So I'll touch on this just briefly today. Color can be used to show hierarchy, and what that means is what order you're supposed to read things on an advertisement, or maybe on a website, or in your design, right? So I might color the title of my book a different color and a different font and a different size than the author's name and the subtitle, because I want my audience to read the title first and then go down to the author, right? Color can represent or imitate reality, obviously, right? Because we're coloring things, trying to make different designs that do imitate things from reality. Color can be used to unify, separate, or emphasize, right? If you look at this website here, color separates, right? You have your background color, you have white boxes that separate out the elements on this web page, right? And they also emphasize, right? Here's our headlines, here's our other featured sections, right? Color can decorate. Obviously, you can see this website is decorated with different types of color that go well together. And then use color consistently when you're doing a design, right? Like I said earlier, you want to have a scheme in place, a color scheme, because that ties everything together. If you don't have a color scheme and it just looks like you're throwing stuff on a page, that obviously can cause problems there. All right, so shapes. Shapes are enclosed objects that can be created with a line. Duh, right? But the thing you need to know from this are there are two types of shapes, and that's geometric, and those are geometric or mathematically designed shapes. And then there's organic, and those are naturally occurring or man-made shapes. So if we look at this right here, this dolphin shape here, this is an organic shape, obviously, okay? And really kind of quick trivia question here. We're going to look at a couple of excerpts from Scott McCloud's book, Understanding Comics. It's an excellent resource, excellent book. But basically, he breaks things down, right? Because this is not a dolphin. This is simply a line made to look like a dolphin, right? And when you start breaking down images like that, you can kind of really get into the nuts and bolts of what makes things pleasing to the eye and what turns people off to your design, right? Okay. And then lastly, you have texture. And that's where you're going to create some sort of texture in a design by varying dark and light areas. You can create roughness, you can create smoothness, you can create depth by varying those things, right? And there are all kinds of different tools in Photoshop and Illustrator to be able to replicate textures. And that's one of the things we're going to look at as we move forward as well. Okay, so if I was going to tackle this from an analysis perspective, this is what I would think about. All right, so say that I gave you this advertisement here, and I said, tell me about this. Tell me about the elements in this advertisement. And remember, right now, we are just simply identifying. We want to be able to point these things out. So if I was looking at lines, I might say, well, there's three kind of bold parallel lines right here. Okay, interesting. For color, we may say, well, it looks like it's monochromatic blue, right? Because all these different shades of blue here. And then let me preface monochromatic. White and black and gray are neutral colors. So if you use them in a monochromatic design, they do not count towards making it not monochromatic, okay? So we have monochromatic blue color coupled with bold white and black letters, right? If we look at shapes, well, we got a square right here, so we got some geometric shape, right? We kind of have this like puddle looking shape right here, so that would be an organic shape. We got the light here, that's definitely a shape. We got that circular bulb there, that's geometric. The actual light itself would be organic, right? And then texture. Notice on this, back in the background, we kind of have these swirl, wisping, like smoky effects back here, or that texture. And then the actual puddle here doesn't have any texture at all, right? So we're drawing a contrast between no texture and texture. And I think it works really well, okay? So if I was engaging with this, and I ask you to engage with it, and tell me about the elements, that's what you do. You're just identifying, tell me what pieces are together here, right? Now, as we move forward with this and talk about these elements and principles, you're going to start developing a vocabulary where you can describe these things and interpret them from a critical thinking perspective, right? All right, so I'm going to stop right now and just ask, are there any questions so far? Because I'm going to have you guys look at an example in just about 2 seconds. All right, very nice, good. All right, so I'm going to put this next design up on the screen, and I want you to think about these 4 things. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to think about it, and I want you to put into the chat one thing that you see, all right? All right, so here's your next design. So I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock. And I want you to put into the chat one thing that you can tell me about related to lines, colors, shapes, or texture. And remember, with color scheme is what we want to think about. Okay? All right, so you got about 3 minutes. I'll let you think about that, and then we'll discuss it afterwards. And essentially, this is just a photograph of a bedroom, obviously. Okay, seeing some good comments there. Very nice. Got about 2 minutes left. Okay. And remember, if you're gonna comment on color, what color scheme do you think it has? What color scheme do you think it has? Okay. All right, got about a minute 30 left. All right, nice. Talking about contrast here too, very good. Okay, got about 30 seconds left and then we'll talk. Okay, nice. Okay, so we're sitting at about 5 seconds here. I'll go ahead and stop that clock. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some of these comments here and see what we're going for. All right, so we got we got colors, texture, geometric shapes. All right, very nice. So for geometric shapes, well, we got a rectangle right here. We got some diamonds over here. We got the wall would be a geometric shape. Maybe the seats of the chairs would be geometric shapes, right? The houses would be geometric shapes. So we got a lot of geometry in this. Okay, good eye. Let's see. Grid on the sheets. Yeah, if you look at the sheets, we kind of have these lines here. Definitely texture, right? We have that soft texture going on. But if we look at the wall, right, we're missing texture. It's really smooth. So we kind of draw a contrast there between kind of the soft bed and the like textureless wall there. Okay, nice. Smoky texture on the paintings. Yeah. So again, we have kind of this smooth texture on the wall, and then we have this smoky kind of hand painted texture on the pictures there. Good, nice. Let's see, organic shapes, bed, pillow, lamp. Those are all geometric shapes. So if we take like the bag as a whole would be a geometric shape, the blanket, the chair, the lamp, those will all be organic shapes. I'm sorry. Let's see, color scheme. I haven't seen the, oh wait, all right, Dean, complementary color scheme. So if you look at the color wheel, all right, and I'll go ahead and go over here right quick so you can see this. If I click on complementary and I drag those out, right, and I'll look at the blues and then what's across from it, it's going to be the oranges, okay? So if we look at the presentation here, we have blues and oranges. Those are going to be complementary colors, right? So good job with that color scheme there. See, contrast of the walls and the paintings. All right, yeah, yep. And that's what that color scheme does. It draws contrast, right? Contrast. We got those blues and oranges. They're separate from one another. They're opposite one another on the color wheel. So it creates that large contrast between the colors. Yeah, good job. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. If you think about lines, we have just kind of, it's kind of difficult with a photograph to comment on lines, but you can see you have a lot of straight kind of geometric lines here that contribute to create those geometric shapes, right? So you have a lot of straight, clean lines in this picture. Okay. Any other comments or concerns before we move on from that? All right, you guys did a good job. All right, so now I want to transition back over to Canvas. We're done with lecture today. Next one goes on to the principles, and we'll talk about those tomorrow. But if you go back to Canvas, I want you guys to go ahead and click on the Design Elements Analysis. And let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I want you to click on the Design Elements Analysis and then open that document up by clicking that link right there. All right. Now, this first part we're going to do as a class, all right? And we're going to analyze this Coke advertisement here. And then the second one you guys are going to kind of do on your own for homework, all right? So I can kind of see how your thoughts are going considering elements, okay? So basically, we just want to break these down. We want to identify what we need to identify and then go from there, right? We're not interpreting here. We're just identifying what we see at this point, all right? So if you want to fill in these as we cover them, that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to make a few notes in each box about what I see up here and just discuss them with you guys, okay? So if I'm looking at lines first, I can look at this Coke advertisement and I can say we have a lot of bold lines in the design. I'm going to bullet point these just to make it more organized for you guys. I'm going to say bold lines. And we call that hatching in the background with the lines that go up and down quite a bit there. So we have bold lines and let's see, we could say background, straight lines, everything else uses curved, right? Let me zoom in so you guys can see this a little better. There we go. Now, are we good with that? You guys getting this down? Oh, okay, Allie, if you will, let me go. Design element analysis won't let you go in. Okay. Let me go back over here and I'll show you how to get here again. So if you're on Canvas, all right, you click on modules. All right, remember that's your go-to place. You want to make sure that you always go to modules. Below Spillman's important links and module 0, getting to know Spillville, you'll have unit number 1, and that's going to be the graphic design review. If you scroll down to day number 11, and that is September 8th, right below the typography notes, which you guys are going to review independently, and then the notes we just went over, you'll have the design elements analysis. You'll click on that, and that will take you directly to the assignment on Canvas. All right. Now, again, if you do not see this box down at the bottom, because I embed my Google Docs into the assignment itself, you might have a button that says authorize. Click that button, log into your Google Drive and link it, and then you'll you'll be able to see this load up. Sometimes it doesn't load up. I don't know why. Sometimes you just need to refresh your page and then it'll load up again. All right. All right, let's see. It won't let you authorize. What is it telling you, Sean? Oh, yeah, you'll have to log into your student email or whichever email you want to use for this. You do, and it doesn't do anything. Okay. What I'll do is I'll send it to you right quick, okay? I will send you, I'm going to send you a copy of it, and you'll just have to, well, I'll share it with you, and you'll just have to make a copy of it and then do what you need to do, okay? All right, so let me go in my Google Drive. There we go. Okay, Sean, you should have the document now. So just go on there, right click on the document, hit make a copy, and then you can do yours. Is everybody else squared away? Yepers. All right. Very nice. Very good. Okay. So we'll go back over. So for lines, if I'm looking at this one, I could say, well, we have these straight lines in the background, right? And we'll comment on those again when we get to texture. But as of right now, we're just doing, we have bold lines and hatching in the background. Not cross hatching, just regular hatching. The background uses straight lines, right? And then everything else in the design uses curved lines. Notice you have your clouds over here. You got your little stars here. You got the Coke bottle. You got this kind of rainbow looking thing in the background here. Even the fonts use curved letters or curved lines there, right? Okay, so I'll let you guys finish typing that in there. I think for the next analysis, I'll have this ready to go so we can just talk about it and then you can jump into the next one. All right. So if I'm thinking about color and color scheme with this, and I can obviously see that this is a monochromatic, red, white, and black. Yep. A monochromatic red color scheme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put monochromatic red color scheme. Oh, I misspelled that, didn't I? I forgot an O. There we go. All right, and that's all you would put for that because, again, we're just identifying the color scheme. And now we get to shapes, and this is where we can pick out a few things. So when you get into more complex designs, when you get to shapes, you're gonna be able to pick out, I mean, 10, 15, maybe 20 items, all right? I don't want you to do that. I want you to just, rule of thumb, 3, all right? Give me 3 things that you can talk about. So I'm gonna stick to that rule, and I'm gonna say, shapes, I'm gonna say Coke bottle, organic, all right? And then let's see, we can go clouds, organic. It's going to go down to the next page here. And then I might say rainbow. That would be more geometric there. We know it's obviously a circle hidden down there. And sometimes these things do overlap, right? This is not an exact science. So something can occur in nature and be geometric, right? So just keep that in mind. Something can be geometric and organic at the same time. You know, if you're analyzing photos that are, you know, landscape photos or whatever it may be, right? Okay, let me check my chat here, just make sure we're good. Okay, yep. So we have shapes, we have the Coke bottle, which is organic. We have the clouds that are organic. And then we have the rainbow, which is definitely geometric. Okay, and then we get to texture. And if you notice in this, we have the hatching creates kind of a rough texture in the background, but everything else has no texture at all. Okay, so we definitely need to make a note of that. So we say hatching creates rough background texture. And then everything else lacks texture. Okay. And again, that kind of goes back to that concept of contrast. You're creating that contrast between the background and what's happening in the foreground. Okay. All right. And then lastly, we have typography. Now, I know we didn't go over the typography notes because I want you to go over those on your own, but I am going to go ahead and comment on those. Okay. So we can go up here. And again, typography is just the types, the typefaces and fonts that are used here. So I usually start with one and then work my way down. So right here, we have a uppercase, all uppercase or all capitalized sans serif font. All right. So we could say tagline in bottle is all caps and sans serif. Right? And sans serif just means that it does not have feet, right? So if you notice, even the text that's on this page is sans serif. So the letters have no feet or lines at the end of the letters, okay? Serif means they do have those feet, right? Okay, so the tagline in the bottle is all caps and sans serif, right? And if we're thinking about personality, right, we could probably say that it kind of has a serious feeling because all text has a feeling of some kind. If it's in all caps and it uses sans serif, chances are it's going to have that personality, that serious feeling associated with it. And you're going to see what that looks like on the other side in just a second. So now we can look at the bottom here. The tagline outside the bottle is all lowercase, sans serif, and italicized. All right. So now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put tagline outside bottle is all lowercase, sans serif, and italics. All right. And that's going to have a lighthearted feeling. Now we've created contrast again. Words in the bottle, take that seriously. Words outside the bottle, kind of take that in a more lighthearted fashion. All right. And the last thing I'm going to comment on is the Coke logo, and that is definitely ornamental. All right. So we can say Coke logo is an ornamental font. Okay. All right, so for this, while you guys are finishing that up, this again is looking at those things we just looked at in the lecture part, right? We looked at lines, we looked at colors, we looked at shapes, we looked at texture, and we looked at typography, and we just identified what it was and what we saw, right? Now with typography, we interpreted the personality, right? And once you go through the notes, you'll see how that goes. And I think you guys will definitely get that very easily. So really, typography is the only place where you're interpreting anything. The rest of it is what do you actually see in the design? All right. Now, for homework tonight, and of course, I would like for you to finish this tonight so we can talk about it tomorrow. I would like for you to analyze this design below here. And it's the same thing. It's asking you for the same information. So what you would do is you would go over the typography notes, just read over those quickly, and then fill in all this information like we did up here. All right. So any questions before we move on? Or do you guys got this? Okay. I'll assume you have it at this point. You're good. All right. Very nice. So if there's no questions and you think you guys are good, what is monochromatic again? So monochromatic is going to be where you use tints and shades of the same color to create a design. So when you look at a design, you're going to see nothing but green, but you're going to have tints and shades of green, or nothing but red, or nothing but blue, right? Yeah, not a problem. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left before I need to let you guys go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let 2 people present today, and then I'll let 1 person go tomorrow. All right. Do I have any volunteers who want to go today?